Do sit down. There's no sense standing about. Your bus isn't till 6:20. That's a good 3 hours off yet, and it's gone damp out on the steps. Here, tea. I've not put any sugar in. You don't take it. Sorry, don't mind me. I get like that towards morning. I'll come out with something about a person as though we'd known each other 100 years, when we've not known each other 10 minutes. The spoon's over there, just to your left. Shall I tell you where it comes from? Neither of us has anything to be getting on with till 6:20, and the night goes quicker with a bit of talk. It's a good night, as it happens. End of August, still summer warm, but with that dry little chill towards morning, the sort that brings the dew down on the car bonnets. I keep the door propped open. It gets close in here. You can hear the crickets in the long grass behind the car park, and you can hear the main road. It's 300 meters off, and all night there's a steady sort of noise coming off it in waves. A car goes by, it dies away. Another one goes by. You get used to that noise inside a week, and after that, you can't drop off without it. I've been here going on 4 years now, nights, every other night. I get my sleep in the daytime in the little room behind the boiler house. It's warm in there off the boiler, and you can't hear a thing. It's a good place. I'm fond of it. Don't go thinking I'm complaining. And it started in May. A couple pulled up in a white car, husband and wife, 40 or thereabouts, and a child asleep on the back seat. The man came in on his own, put their papers down on the desk, and I said to him, before I'd even lifted my head, "Welcome back. We're glad to have you with us again." He was quiet for a moment, and then he says, "This is our first time with you. I apologized. My mistake. Sorry. A lot of people come through in a night. The faces all run together by morning." He laughed, waved it off, took his key, and went along to his room. Only it wasn't a mistake. When he walked in, it wasn't his face I remembered, you see. What I remembered was that last time he'd asked not to be put near the stairs because the child wakes at the sound of footsteps, and that his wife had stood over there, by the drinks machine, holding a bag of apricots. Apricots. Not the surname, not the car, not the face. Yellow apricots in a bag, bruised down one side. And I remembered it as calmly as I remember what I had for my supper last night. In June, a man turned up in a battered van, one of those you hire off a small advert to shift furniture and seed trays about. A big fellow, gray-haired. He parked hard up against a fence, nose away from the building, so his headlamps wouldn't shine in at the windows. That's how they park when they've been sleeping out on the road for years. I watched him come across the yard, taking his time, working his shoulders loose, and I said it out loud to myself before he'd so much as put his hand on the door. "Welcome back. We're glad to have you with us again." And then he came in, and I said it to him again. He wasn't surprised. He nodded, said thanks, and asked if it was all the same to me, not number 10. So I say, "What's wrong with number 10? And he says, "Oh, nothing. Habit, that's all." And while I was writing him into the register, I already knew what was wrong with number 10. Last time the water came through barely warm in there, and he'd waited a good 20 minutes. And here's the thing I have to tell you. There really was a business with the water in number 10 in the spring. The mixer tap furred up. I mended it myself. I remember unscrewing it, soaking the little gauze filter in a glass of vinegar, going round afterwards to apologize. And I remember the man who complained about it too, how he stood in this very spot at the desk and how awkward he felt about it. Only it wasn't the gray-haired one. That one was a small man in glasses in an old boxy little saloon. I remember the pair of them in exactly the same detail, down to the buttons. And the gray-haired one isn't in our register. Not one line of him in 4 whole years. I went and looked afterwards on purpose. Mind you, we're honest about the water here. The boiler's a big one, out in the boiler house behind the building. It hums away quietly and heats the way it ought to, and there's hot water at any hour of the night. I'm even a little bit proud of that. You don't often get it in places out on the road.
There's the one lamp in our car park, on a post in the middle. A yellow bulb, sodium. All summer there are midges going round and round it, and it makes the light look alive, sort of shifting. I spend about 3 hours a night looking out at that car park, all told. There's nothing else to be doing. And by July, I'd started noticing that I wasn't just looking, I was recognizing. There's a car parked there. And I know from somewhere that last time it was 2 spaces further left by the fence. There's another one, and I know its rear light is taped up with insulating tape. Then I'll go out for a cigarette, walk over, and it is right enough. In July, at about 2 in the morning, a woman arrived. Elderly, very neat, with a little case on wheels that she was carrying by the handle so it wouldn't rattle over the gravel. "Welcome back. We're glad to have you with us again." And she said, "Thank you. We always stop with you." That, I think, was the worst of it. Not that I knew her, but that she said, "we." She was on her own. She came in a taxi. The taxi went straight off again. She took a single, number 4, and in the morning she left on the bus, on her own as well. And all that night I remembered that last time she hadn't been on her own, and I remembered the man who stayed waiting in the car that time and never came inside at all. The breakfasts here are home cooking, in the plainest sense of the word. It's Valia's kitchen. She lives in the village 2 kilometers off and walks in for 5:30. First, the switch clicks on the other side of the wall. Then the extractor fan starts up. Then the pans begin clattering, and that clatter at 5:30 in the morning is, I'll be honest with you, my favorite part of the whole shift. It means the night's over. By August, I'd started knowing who would order what before they'd even come down the stairs. Not guessing, knowing. As calmly as you know, the tea will be hot. I meant to say something about it to Valia. I even started, and then I didn't. There she is with her pans at 5:30 in the morning, and here's me coming to her with talk like that. I said nothing and went to put the kettle on. And in August, I started remembering arriving here myself. It's not like a dream. Dreams don't stay with me past morning, and this lies flat and even, the way a real one does. I remember pulling in here at night, coming up from the south, so tired I was hardly watching the road anymore. I remember being glad the light was on and there was somebody behind the desk. I remember the gravel under my boots and the handrail on the stairs, still warm from the day's sun. And I even remember which room they gave me, number 12. And I've never stayed here. I came out 4 years ago to ask about the job, in the daytime, on the bus, on foot from the stop, with a bag over my shoulder. And that's all of it. Although no, that isn't all of it. There's one more thing. And that one isn't an arrival I made up. It's a real one. Nikolai Ivanich, the porter who handed the desk over to me back then, showed me where the register was, and the daybook, and the fuse box. And on his way out he said, as ordinary as anything, in passing, "Well then, welcome back." I didn't ask him about it. I thought he'd misspoken. The man was tired. He had a bus to catch in 2 hours. He went off to his daughters in Lipetsk and never rang again. A long time afterwards, I asked Valia about him. It turned out that was how he greeted everybody, always. Her when she came back off her holidays, and the electrician who comes out twice a year. A turn of phrase and nothing more to it.
I was even a bit put out. I'd carried that phrase about with me for 2 years as though it were something of my own. Right, and now about that night. It was a fortnight or so back, the middle of August, as quiet a night as this one. 2 rooms taken, number 3 and number 7. Both cars in the yard, the lights off in both rooms before midnight even. Number 12 stood empty. It's been empty since the end of July, the corner one on the end, window looking into the yard, and for some reason, nobody takes it. Though it's no worse than the rest. The key was hanging on its hook. I had it in front of me all evening. At about 3, I went out onto the front steps. It was very quiet. The crickets had stopped. The road had emptied out. Only now and then something big would go by a long way off and set the windows trembling a little. And I saw that the door of number 12 was standing ajar. 10 centimeters or so, dark inside, no light on, and from in there, somebody called to me. Not by name. Nobody in there used my name. They just said it politely, half under their breath, the way people talk at night in a place like this, so as not to wake the room next door. "Excuse me, could you come over a minute?" It was an ordinary voice, a man's, calm, a bit tired, with the sort of tone a person has when he's asking for a fresh towel or wondering where the socket is. I didn't go. I didn't run inside. I didn't lock the doors. I didn't ring anybody. Nothing of that sort. I simply went back in, sat down behind the desk, and stayed sitting there. They asked a few more times from in there, always just as politely, never insisting, with gaps of 20 minutes or so between them. I worked it out by the clock afterwards. Not once any louder, and never crossly. That's how people ask when they're certain somebody will come to them in the end, because the desk here is open round the clock, and at any hour there's somebody sitting behind it. And at around 4 from in there, they said, "Welcome back. We're glad to have you with us again." My own words. The very ones I say 10 times a night. And I still didn't go. I sat it out till 5:30, till the switch clicked on the other side of the wall, till the extractor fan, till the pans. When it got light, I took the key and went to open up number 12. The door was shut fast, right to the catch. I hadn't closed it, and there'd been no wind in the night. I noted that, and stood there a moment, and then I said to myself, well, it's swung to, that's all. It's an old building. The frames go out of true. And I opened it with the key. Bed made, bedspread without a single crease. Towels in a stack. The glass on the bedside table standing upside down on a paper napkin. That's how the cleaner leaves it in a room that's ready, and nobody had touched it. Nobody had stayed in that room. I shut the door, hung the key back up, and went to have my tea. And nothing happened. Not then, not on the next shift, not since. Nobody has called to me again. I'm still working here. I still know the guests, even though I'm seeing them for the first time, and I've got used to it by now. I remember, and that's that. Apricots, the rear light taped up, who wants porridge, and who wants their eggs fried. But I don't go into number 12. Not because I'm frightened. There's simply no need. It stands empty. I don't let it out. And if anybody asks for the corner one, I tell them it's being done up. There we are. It's getting light. Valia's clattering about already. There'll be proper tea in a minute, not mine. Oh, there's somebody pulling in. Early, aren't they? A gray car, roof rack, plates from a long way off. So they've driven through the night, and now they'll be asking for a window onto the yard. so they can sleep till evening. You sit here a minute. I'll go and get the door. Welcome back. We're glad to have you with us again. Filling station number 34, kilometer 214. Operating instructions for the night shift operator. Clause 1.1. The night shift operator is subordinate to the senior operator and comes on duty at 2100 hours. It lies under a sheet of glass on the desk, this instruction, right there under your nose, and in a night you'll read it through 3 times or so, simply because there's nowhere else to rest your eyes. 4 pages, large type, and on the second page, a coffee ring that was here long before I was. I've been at the station 2 months. Nobody wants the nights. The pay is the same as for days, and you're on your own. And it's 22 kilometers to the village one way and 30 the other. The place sits like this: flat fields, the road, the crash barrier, and on this one spot, a canopy, 3 pumps, and a kiosk. Under the canopy, there are fluorescent tubes, and once they've warmed up, the light goes white as anything, and in it you can see every crack in the tarmac. And just past the edge of the canopy, there's blackness, as though somebody had set a circle of light down on a table, and around the table there was nothing at all. By November, the leaves have packed down into a black mush. There's frost in the mornings, and at night the cold comes off the fields so hard that the glass in the kiosk mists up on the inside. Not many cars, 3 or 4 an hour before midnight, then fewer, then hardly any at all. You can see the headlights a good 2 minutes off. First the light along the low sky, then the car itself, and those 2 minutes are the part of the shift I like best. Clause 2.1. On taking over the shift, the operator shall check the integrity of the seals on the pump meters, measure the level in the tanks, and enter the readings in the shift log. And that's the whole of the job. Look at the seals, take the level with the dip rod, copy the figures across, count the money. 20 minutes and the shift is 12 hours. The instruction was written at head office a very long time ago. It's about everything at once and nothing in particular. But in the margins there's pencil. That's an old habit at our station. The glass comes off the desk and anybody with nothing to do all night writes something in the margins. 5 different hands, some of them faded right out. Against the clause about the till. The coffee machine swallows your change. Don't put coins in it. Take some out of my drawer. Against the clause about cleaning. The mop lives behind the fridge. The back room's damp. I liked that from the first night. You're sitting on your own in the white light with blackness beyond the glass on every side, and there, on your desk, people are talking. Clause 4.2. The operator shall keep the forecourt under observation, including the far pump by means of the convex observation mirror. The mirror stands on a post between the second and the third pump, round, convex, the size of a dustbin lid, and the whole forecourt fits into it at once, only bent, the tarmac humped, the canopy curved. You see them hung up anywhere there's a corner you can't see round. You have to look into it, because from the kiosk, the third pump is behind a pillar. And in the margin, against that clause, in pencil, in a neat schoolboy hand, after 3 in the morning, don't look at the third pump. And that's all. Not why, not what will happen. One line between the advice about the mop and the advice about writing legibly. For a week and a half, my eyes went round it, and I didn't think about it at all. Anyone might have had his own reason for it. Maybe a lamp was flickering out there and catching him in the eye. By 3 in the morning, Any line at all seems important, and by morning it seems funny. But I didn't look at the third pump after 3 all the same, and then I looked by accident. An old square-built saloon was standing at the third pump, road salt caked all along the sills. The owner filled up, paid, wished me a quiet night, and walked back to his car. I looked up to see whether he'd gone. I had lights to turn off, and I saw him in the mirror. He got in behind the wheel, and the car rocked under him the way a car always rocks when a person gets in. All as it should be. And then, when he was already sitting still and looking for something in the glove box, the body settled a finger's width, rocked, and came back up not quite all the way. Exactly the way a car settles when somebody else gets into the back. Calmly, taking its time, not jumping in, heavy only for the metal. The back door was shut, and nobody had opened it. On a car that age, the back door bangs right across the forecourt. I would have heard it. He pulled out onto the road, putting his indicator on in the middle of an empty field, the way everybody does. The car went the way a loaded car goes, the back of it a little lower, softer over the bumps by the exit. I thought at the time, the springs have gone. It's an old car. Clause 4.5. The operator is forbidden to leave the post for more than 15 minutes or to sleep during working hours. I had no intention of sleeping that week. 2 nights later, there was a white 4x4 with a trailer, an empty one. I looked inside it on purpose. And when the owner had settled himself in and pulled the door shut, I was already watching in the mirror without looking away, and it all happened again, just as calmly and just as uninterestingly. The body settled a finger's width, rocked, and came back up not quite all the way. A night later, a box van. The body settled a finger's width, rocked, and came back up not quite all the way. 2 nights later, a red hatchback with a driving school sticker, and it was the same with that one. And that was when I noticed the thing the senior man would explain later in 3 sentences, and that took me about 10 days to work out on my own. It isn't every car that settles, only the one that filled up after 3 at the third pump. At the first and the second, never. I made a point of asking people to move across, telling them the third was playing up. I drove out in the daytime to watch as well, like a complete fool. Sat down by the exit with a flask and watched the pump for an hour and a half. In the daytime, cars settle by exactly as much as the people getting into them weigh. And after 3, there's always the extra finger. The heaviest thing I ever had was a lorry, an articulated tractor unit, running up to the city empty. It takes a long time to fill, and the driver had time to drink a coffee from my machine and to say what he thought of it. By the time he had climbed up into the cab and shut himself in, I was outside. Not in the kiosk, 6 meters off, with no mirror at all. I needed to see it with my own eyes, and I saw it. A tractor unit has air suspension. To make that cab sit down, you have to try very hard indeed. And it sat down, slowly, with dignity, the way everything big goes down under a load. The body settled a finger's width, rocked, and came back up not quite all the way. And then, 10 seconds or so later, again, in exactly the same way, which meant there were 2 of them, and the second one was in no hurry. I stood under the lamps and listened, and there was nothing there to listen to. No footsteps on the tarmac, no door slamming, no shifting about on the seat. The air brakes hissed only when he pulled away, and they do that on all of them. No shadow on the tarmac, no breath showing in the cold, not one single person, only metal, only a vehicle driving away heavier than it arrived.
Clause 6.3. The refueling of employees' private vehicles is carried out on normal terms, with payment through the till in all cases. My own car stands all night at the side of the kiosk by the fence. It's 15 years old, and I know every sound in it. I always fill up at the third pump, It's the nearest one to the fence. You don't have to turn round. And usually while it's still light, before the shift. But that night I got caught up in things and only remembered the tank at 4:30, and then it had to be moved off the pump and back to the fence. 40 seconds work. I got in, started it, and while it warmed up, while I sat waiting and looking straight ahead of me at the white tarmac, behind me, behind my back, the body settled, a finger's width, rocked, and came back up, not quite all the way. I didn't see it, and I didn't hear it. I felt it through the seat. It's what you feel when your wife gets in behind you with the shopping. The car dips briefly, and then it's standing differently, lower, and what I did about it was nothing. I took it back to the fence, got out, locked it, and went in to finish writing up the log, with roughly the feeling you have when you very nearly dropped something expensive that belongs to somebody else. And sometime after 7, it began to go gray. Then the first lorries came through, heading up to the city. And at 9, Palich, the senior man, arrived to take over the shift. Clause 8.1. The handover of the shift shall be carried out in person, with reconciliation of the meter readings, the fuel remaining, and the cash in the till. It all tallied, down to the last liter and the last penny. I'm careful that way. And when he had signed, I said it. Not the way you say something frightening, the way you'd say a tap was broken. Palich, do you know that after 3, at the 3rd pump, somebody gets into the cars? He said, I know, and poured himself some water from the kettle. I waited for what would come next, and nothing did. He drank, looked out of the window at the road, and said, very evenly, the way you'd talk about the weather, yes, they get in. They always have. There's been a station on this spot since '84. They don't get in at the 1st and the 2nd, only at the 3rd, and why, nobody knows. They go as far as the Kuznetsova turning, 11 kilometers, and they get off there. You can't see them getting off either. The car simply comes back up level while it's moving, and drivers sometimes notice that the steering has gone lighter and put it down to the wind. He said all this without lifting his head. He was sorting the notes from the till by denomination and smoothing the turned-up corners flat with his palm. Not one complaint in all the years. No more accidents than usual. Nobody gone missing. People drive off a little heavier. They get as far as the turning, and after that they go on empty, the way they were going before. And the line in the margin, he said, Valera wrote that. He wiped behind the kettle with a cloth, where the water is forever collecting, and finished what he was saying from over there. Not because it's dangerous, but because at first it's unpleasant to look at, especially at night, and especially on your own. Don't look, and you work in peace, and the wages of the same. I asked one thing only. So mine as well, then? And he said, yours as well, of course. You'll get as far as the turning, and they'll get off there. Get in the car first, though, or you'll get cold. And that was when I felt bad, and not at all where I'd expected to. I had spent the whole week living as though I'd discovered something, measuring springs with my eyes, lying to people about a pump being broken, and all that time it had been a routine matter. Like the machine swallowing your change and the mop standing behind the fridge because the back room's damp. We finished our tea. Palich put on his high vis and went out to change the prices. From the 1st of the month, the 95 had gone up. The station opened for the day, the way it opened yesterday and the way it will open tomorrow. And before I left, I lifted the glass off the desk and wrote in the margin in pencil, underneath Valera's line, because that's how it's done with us. This is what I wrote. I've wiped the mirror. It was all smeared. You can see properly now. If you do look after 3, there's nothing special there. They just get in. The machine still swallows your change. I put the glass back and straightened the corner so that it lay level.
Then I got into my car and drove home to sleep, because I'm on again in the evening. The car went heavily, the back of it low, soft over the bumps, and at the 11th kilometer, at the Kuznetsovo turning, the steering went noticeably lighter, and after that, I was driving on empty. Clause 9.4. An operator who has handed over the shift is not permitted to remain on the premises of the filling station. The 23rd of January, 10 minutes past midnight. Stocktake of the collection. Room 1, The Natural World of the District. Accessions Book, page 42. I say it all out loud. Don't think anything of it. It's just easier out loud when you're on your own in an empty building. While you're talking, you know where you are. Ours is an old building, and a good one. It was the merchant Polyanov's house, 1897. Thick walls. It holds the heat all winter, and the radiators hum evenly, all on one note. Houses like that were built mirrored. The entrance hall in the middle, 2 staircases, a left wing and a right wing, the rooms running one into the next. Whatever's on the left is on the right as well, for the sake of an even facade. That was how it was done then, and, to be honest, it's more convenient that way. I'm in my 11th year here, and I've never once got lost. The 2 wings meet at the far end, in the passage. There's only the one, straight. No turnings and no doors. 41 paces. I've counted them 100 times. So the round is always the same. The run of rooms from the entrance hall to the far end, then the passage, and beyond it the run of rooms again, only from the other side. A circle. My work is simple as they come. Ours is a district museum, a staff of 4 counting me, and the collection is supposed to be checked against the book once a year, all of it, down to the last number. There's nobody to do it in the daytime. In the daytime, there are school children, tours, the local history club on Tuesdays, and on Saturdays, wedding parties come to have their photographs taken by the front steps. So the stocktake was put down for my night shifts. I take the book, I go round room by room, and against every number I put a tick and my signature, item by item, number by number. A room or 2 a night, sometimes 3. There's no hurry. 5 hours till morning. And, honestly, nobody but me is ever going to check those ticks anyway. Right then, off we go. Room 1. The Natural World of the District. Accession 1041. A lynx, stuffed, on her plinth, in the corner by the window. Present. Accession 1042. A wood grouse, stuffed. Present. Accession 1043. A mammoth tusk, fragment, 70 centimeters, on a stand. Present. Accession 1044. A herbarium, 12 sheets under glass. Present. Reference 207. The mineral collection. 34 specimens. 34. Present. And that's the whole job. Quiet, steady. By the 3rd room you start nodding off. That lynx, as it happens, I know better than I know my own relatives. She was mounted in the 60s, and the man who stuffed her set her head a little to one side, to the right, as though she had heard something off to her right. One of her ears is moth-eaten, the left one, and there's a chip out of the plinth on the right-hand side. They knocked the corner off carrying her in, before my time. Room 2, the county town. Accession 882. Photograph, Settlers, 1908. Present. 22 people, all of them looking into the lens, nobody smiling. Accession 883. Shop sign, Polyanov's Drapery, tin on wood. Present. Accession 884, counterscales with pans, present. Accession 885, office abacus, present. Accession 886, paraffin lamp, present. Room 3, village life. Accession 1210, spinning wheel by the left-hand wall, present. Accession 1211, loom, dismantled, present. Accession 1212, oven fork, present. Accession 1213, iron-bound chest, present. That's the left wing closed. 3 rooms in a night is good going. Usually it goes slower than that. After that, the far end, the passage, and the right wing. In the book, that's room 4, the war. Accession 77, a shell case, a helmet, letters from the front folded into triangles under glass. I never got to room 4 that night. I walked the passage through, and there it was. The same room again, only left to right. The lynx, the grouse, the tusk on its stand, the herbarium under glass. All of it the same, laid out in exactly the same way, but mirrored. The lynx not to the left of the window, but to the right. Her head held to one side, not to the right, but to the left. The moth-eaten ear, the right one. The chip out of the plinth on the left-hand side. I stood there a while. I thought I had got my doors mixed up and come round in a circle. You can do that here if you go through the staff corridor. I went and checked. The staff corridor was locked. The key was in my pocket. Nobody had touched the lock. And there's only the one passage, straight, no turnings and no doors. 41 paces. So I did the one thing I know how to do. I opened the book and started checking. Against every number there was a tick already, an hour old, in my own hand. I put a second one. And here's the main thing. The inventory tallied. Accession 1041, a lynx, stuffed, present. Accession 1042, a grouse, present. Accession 1043, a tusk, 70 centimeters, present. Accession 1044, a herbarium, 12 sheets, 12, present. Reference 207, minerals, 34 specimens, present. Not one item too many, not one item missing. You have to understand, if there had been so much as one extra display case in there, one exhibit without a number on it, one door that wasn't on the plan, I would have been frightened, I expect, in the ordinary human way, the way you're supposed to be. But there was nothing to be frightened of. It all tallied. Complete agreement with the book. It was just that the left had become the right. I even had a look at the dust. The dust was lying as it should, an even layer, a week's worth of it. Nobody had moved anything that night. It had been standing like that. Well, what do you do? I carried on. I closed the book, went through the second room, the third, and came down the run of rooms to the far end. I walked the passage through, and there it was, the same room again, only left to right. The first one I went straight through this time, without stopping. Lynx, grouse, tusk, all of them in their places, all of them mirrored. The second, the county town. The photograph of the settlers, 22 people, and the one standing at the left-hand edge was now at the right-hand edge. Scales, abacus, lamp, the whole lot moved over to the opposite wall. The shop sign, and it was on the sign that I noticed the one thing that was wrong. The letters on it stood the right way round. Polyanov's drapery. It read normally, left to right, the way it had always read. And that doesn't happen. In a reflection, the letters turn round. Any child with a mirror and a picture book knows that.
And here, every label, every little inventory number, every card stood the right way round and read the way it always did. The room reflected. The things reflected. The crack across the case running from a different corner, and the letters the right way round. So it isn't a reflection. So it stands like that. I sat down on the window ledge then, I remember, and sat there a bit. Not out of fear. It's just a heavy thought, and you have to sit with it. I sat, got up, went through the third room, and came up against the far end again. I walked the passage through, and there it was, the same room again, only left to right. The first and the second I went through without opening the book. The third, village life, the spinning wheel over by the right-hand wall now. The floorboard that creaks is still the third one from the window, but it's a different window, and so it creaks under the other foot. The iron-bound chest, the oven fork, and the far end again. I walked the passage through, and there it was, the same room again, only left to right. The first one, the lynx looking to the right, the moth-eaten ear the left one, the chip on the right. That is, the way it is with us, the way it is in life. A reflection of a reflection. Everything back where it belonged, and somehow that made it worse than anything else. It turned out I wasn't going anywhere at all. I was swinging to and fro like a pendulum, and being turned round at every passage. The entrance hall never came up once the whole night. The run of rooms ran into the far end into the passage, and the passage into room 1 again. I walked the passage through, and there it was, the same room again, only left to right. I stopped counting rooms and started counting passages. I lost count at the 9th. Not because I was frightened. I just lost count. You know how you lose count when you're counting sheep and you're already asleep. In the room where I lost count, there was a book lying on the window ledge, the same as mine. Cloth-bound, the corners frayed. A sessions book in ink on the cover and the collection number, open with a ruler laid across it to hold it flat. A chair beside it, one of our ordinary chairs from the back room, the seat worn shiny. I had a look. The same numbers, the same order, the same columns. 1041, 1042, 1043. Ticks, signatures, all as it should be. And page 63, and I'm on 42. At the bottom of the column there was a surname, Tikhomirov, A.P. I know that name. It's on the board in our entrance hall. They worked at the museum. Under the photograph where a man in a jacket is standing next to this very lynx, screwing his eyes up at the flash. Tikhomirov, attendant, 31 years. I went on. In the next room there was a book as well, on the writing desk by the window. Gulieva, V.N., page 81. Further along, Sinitsyn, a page somewhere past 100. Small, neat handwriting with a strong slant to it, the way they wrote before the war. All the books were the same, all the inventories tallied, and every one of them was kept by its own person in their own room. I didn't meet anybody there, don't go thinking that. Not one person the whole night, not a footstep, not a voice. Only Sinitsyn's ink wasn't quite dry yet, and there was a sheet of blotting paper lying on it. And what I felt, wasn't horror, relief. Because at last it was clear what to do. All that night I hadn't understood. And then I did, and it let go of me straight away. It's simple work, after all. A room, a book, the numbers, a tick, a signature. Item by item, number by number. Nobody ever abandoned it, and nobody ever started it from scratch. It's just handed on with the place, the way you hand on the keys, the stamp, and the holiday rota. Tikomirov, 31 years. Gulieva before him. Sinitsyn before her. And before Sinitsyn, there was probably somebody else again, whose photograph was taken off the board a long time ago. The board's a small one. There isn't room on it for everybody. I didn't go looking for the way out. I'll be honest with you. I didn't even try. Not because they wouldn't let me out. Nobody was holding me at all. The doors are all open. The passage is straight, 41 paces. Go wherever you like. It's just that there were still a couple of hours till morning, and I had a room I hadn't closed.
Walking away from a room you haven't closed isn't a decent thing to do. I hadn't done it in 11 years, and I didn't do it that night. I went back to where the chair was, sat down, pulled my book closer to the lamp, licked the pencil. The radiators hummed evenly, all on one note. Outside the window it was snowing, the third day of it now, and the snow made the room lighter than it usually is at night. Warm, quiet. No telephone, no school children, no weddings by the front steps. Room 1, the natural world of the district. Accession 1041, a lynx stuffed on her plinth in the corner by the window, present, standing there. Accession 1042, a wood grouse stuffed, present. Accession 1043, a mammoth tusk, fragment, 70 centimeters, present. Accession 1044, a herbarium, 12 sheets under glass, 12, present. Reference 207, the mineral collection, 34 specimens, 34. Tallied. It all tallied, the way it always tallies. Date, signature, checked. And after that, I'll get up, put the book under my arm, and go on. There are more rooms through there, plenty of them, and they're good rooms, warm ones, every single one of them familiar. I walked the passage through, and there it was, the same room again, only now right to left, because now I'm walking it from the other side. Good, that means I'm present.